My idea of a total nightmare is to be on a train and reach for my bag and realise there isn't a book in it. I'm one of those people that will read the kind of, how to escape from a train in the event of a fire, and the back of cornflake packets and anything. And if the person opposite goes to the loo and he leaves his paper on the table, it's a horrific thing. But just because it is, we do it because we like it, we sort of omit the fact that it is, by all academic standards, by all research conducted by psychologists, it is actually good for you in all sorts of ways. Perhaps research has shown it's particularly good for you to read novels. There's even a wonderful study that seems to show that reading literary novels is particularly good for you. There's a study in New York that showed that people have more empathy by all sorts of objective standards after they read quite a literary novel that requires people to speculate, to throw out feelers, to imagine what the characters might be doing. Certainly, reading books helps greatly with analytic thinking. It helps a lot with memory, and of course it develops intelligence. There was a government study earlier this year that showed that I must say I do find this finding irresistibly comic, but it did show that regular users of libraries experienced an uplift in mood comparable to earning an additional £1,350 The same study showed that if you go to the gym, that you actually feel worse. So, I've got a number of proposals here, some of which are a little bit idealistic. Some of them I think are quite seriously intended. There's one that I think is an individual proposal that we can all act on. And one of the things that does worry me about the state of reading and how people started to read is that reading communities have started to become much more segregated than they were. And something that I hear a lot from teachers and people in education is that a lot of boys find it difficult to engage with reading. Now, I think that we can do something to set an example here, which is simply read everything ourselves. Don't limit yourself to one sort of book that you happen to think that you like. Don't choose your book because you feel that the publisher has decided they're going to target your social group on the cover, particularly. And I think that the key thing as reading develops, as a new reading community develops, is that people should just be open to lives very, very different from their own. I don't think we should read just to recognise ourselves in books. I've got three policy proposals. One is not so much a proposal, but just an observation that the abolition of the net book agreement has been a disaster, and a disaster in all sorts of areas. And I don't understand why, if we're happy with fixed prices for newspapers and magazines, we can't be happy with fixed prices for books. It preserved the life of authors of all sorts. It preserved publishers, and it especially preserved the local bookshop. So I don't really know what's to be done about that. It would be lovely to think that the government could come in and say we are going to have the net book agreement back again. I don't think it's going to happen. I will propose it. Let's have the net book agreement back again. The second thing I want to propose is that libraries should be funded. They must be funded, and their funding must be protected, because it's so easy for the people that fund libraries to say, well, they're just books on shelves. We can cut down their funding for a bit. Do people really go to that library? No, let's close it down, let's turn it into something else. I think that given the contribution of libraries to individual well-being, very well established by the department's own research, given their place in the community, given that it's a decreasingly common communal free space where people of all sorts can come, I think there ought to be a statutory obligation on councils to spend a fixed proportion of their budget on libraries. I thought, well, the government makes recommendations for all sorts of things, doesn't it? And one of the successful things that they've done is to say you ought to eat your 5 fruit and vegetables a day. 5 a day. Everyone knows what 5 a day means, even though it doesn't really mean anything. We all kind of go out and think, right, I'm going to have some raspberries. Oh yes, that's number 3 today. Maybe rather vaguely. Some days we're better than others, but it's stuck in our mind. It's got a statutory requirement. There aren't people around saying to people, you've only eaten 4 today, go out and get some raspberries. Now, why doesn't the government, given all the evidence that reading is good for you, why doesn't it just issue a statement saying, have you read enough? I think that, as a whole, we should read for the most obvious reasons that we enjoy it. We will read for the most obvious reason that we enjoy it. But those benefits, I think, they are incidental, but they're absolutely immense. Thank you very much.